Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2022 Valspar Championship preview show, minus the bets, because I apologize, but we don't have any bets out at this moment. I am recording this as we speak, as the players' final round is being televised, and so I wanted to get this out because I didn't know when I'd have time and get you guys at least enough information. We're going to be running a little quick, fast and furious with a Monday finish, and knowing that we've got to get our teams and all that in and bets by the Thursday morning. So that said, let's talk a little bit about the Valspar, but first I'm going to give you my quick recap of the Players Championship. Okay, so I don't think anybody thought we'd see this gentleman, Mr. Aniban Lahari, at the leaderboard. I mean, this is a guy that typically on a, not a top-studded field, or what we call the alternate tournaments, you'd see him there. I'm not even sure, to be honest, how he got in the field. I saw some of the guys that withdrew. Of course, we had Hideki pull out right off the bat, but that did not get him in. But long story short, Aniban, is here, and right now, I mean, of course, this leaderboard is going to look, I think, quite a bit different when it's all said and done. But as you guys know, if you watched quite a bit of this and try to stick with it, it was tough. It was all about the tee times. If you look at the guys who got the early morning Thursday tee time, 44 of those players made the cut out of 72. And if you got the late draw, which would have been, probably around noon or 1, 27 players of those 72 made the cut. And of course, just so happens that Morikawa was in that, and that was the guy that I was really betting on from a one and done and everything, who just killed a lot of my DFS lineups. I do have one lineup with all 6 in there that is up there in the top 200 as we speak in the Millie Maker, but I don't plan on, of course, doing, who knows. We'll see how it all shakes out. But long story short, I'm sure you guys had some carnage with, like, the Cantlays and the Koepkas. I mean, you almost lost Rory and Scheffler, but they moved the cut to +2. But yeah, I mean, in my own personal opinion, that I will make sure in my past notes that I will not be using this tournament to reflect on what I'm going to be doing for the players next year, because I just think it was so skewed. I mean, you had the guys that went out in those crazy wins, or you had guys that started like finishing their first round, in those wins on 16 and then had to play 17 and 18. Like, it was just crazy. But the good news is they are going to get the tournament done, and we will get a conclusion. At least it was wasn't like they cut it to like a 3-day finish or anything like that. But I'm going to show you just a quick video too after this, just to kind of highlight what I thought was kind of funny of the guys literally that had to come out, which was Morikawa, Koepka, and Rory, and playing those wins on 17, 18, the final holes. Okay, enough about that. And I will state also, of course, you had Shane Lowry. So there were some cool things. You had Shane Lowry make that hole-in-one yesterday, which I believe that would have been his round 2 finish or beginning of 3rd. Doesn't matter. On 17, I tweeted that out. Good for him. I'm a big Shane Lowry fan. Of course, he was one of my picks. Also, you had this morning, Victor Hovland had a hole-in-one on, I believe, I'm going to forget, but it was, of course, on a par 3. I think it's like 12 or 13. So there was 2 hole-in-ones that I saw, and then just starting out in the final round, Russ Henley actually made an albatross, a double eagle. He double bogeyed, and then I think it's number 11, I believe, that he double eagled. So probably missed that, but that did happen. Okay, watch this quick video, and then let's talk about Valspar.
Look at where it all went wrong at 17 for so many players, like Colin Morikawa. Morikawa struggling today, 73-75. More on Rory as well. And, yeah, all you could do was laugh in the face of that.
Okay, so let's talk about the Valspar Championship. We're going to the west side of Florida, over there by Tampa Bay at Palm Harbor, Florida. And we are off the Gulf now, so wind and weather can be a factor for sure. I did take a quick look, and it looks like we're good to go. From a weather perspective, might be have a little wind, but nothing from a rain perspective. And this is the last event in the Florida Swing. Thank the Lord. I'm kind of over the Florida Swing, considering at the Arnold Palmer, we had the U.S. Open breakout. And then at the Players, as I mentioned, it looked like we were going to have the British Open or the Open breakout, and that's what happened. But anyways, we're at Innisbrook Resort, and the name of the course they're playing is Copperhead, of course. This was built back in 1972, and the Valspar has been here since 2000. Of course, that's the paint company. And before that was the Tampa Bay Classic, and the architect or design was Larry Picard, which really doesn't matter to us. But this is a par 71 coming in at a little over 7,300 yards. And what's a little unique about this is it has 9 par 4s. So you still got your 4 pars. Typically, when you have a par 71, you either lose, typically you lose a par 5. But they do have 4 par 5s and they have 4 par 3s. You actually lost a par 4. Your fairways and rough are going to be what they call Celebration Bermuda. And what I noted is that right now they're stating that the rough is going to be at 3 inches, but overseeded. It's going to be penal. They had quite a bit of rain too, right? It came right across there to hit where the players is at and at Ponte Vedra. So it's going to be interesting. I'm sure they'll get mowers on it beforehand, but just like we're seeing at the players, they haven't cut the rough in quite a while. So it's just growing and growing. And then the greens, which we've been seeing quite a bit recently, is TifEagle Bermuda. So we will have the ability, of course, to look at some of the courses like the Honda that we just saw that. And I believe where we're at right now at the players is TifEagle too. Your player field is very similar to what we've been seeing, like I said, just at the players. We got 144 players are in the field, and the cut will be at T65 in ties. What I'm going to be curious about how many withdrawals we get from this tournament, just because of what transpired, especially if they played the Arnold Palmer and then went through this and then have to go jump over to the Valspar. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Right now, I haven't really seen any withdrawals already, but yeah, that's going to be interesting. The historical cut line, if you track back 4 or 5 years, it's anywhere from even, which was last year was at even, but it's typically been +1, +2, all the way up to +4. And then, of course, your past champions, winning scores. You had Sam Burns, who had his first win on tour, shot 17 under. And you had Keegan Bradley in the mix in the final pairing, who just, was missing 3-footers, doing what Keegan Bradley does. And then in 2020, it was actually, this event was canceled due to COVID. So we didn't get to see it in 2020. But then before that, you had Mr. Paul Casey, who won it back-to-back, which is rare to win back-to-back on the PGA Tour, shooting a 10 under and an 8 under. And then before that, you had Adam Hadwin, which would have been, I think, about 2017. And then I think even before that, you had Charles Schwartzel. So, I look at the last 3 winners, and what do you know from those guys? Just some of the elite ball strikers in the field. Also, Burns, I'd say, is a better putter than Casey. But Casey got hot, and we'll see that, putting does come into effect. But it's going to be, as always, very hard to figure out who's going to actually putt well this weekend. Your average green size just a smidgen over the average green, so smaller to just a hair over smaller greens, but I'll just say average, 5,800 square feet. Still got quite a bit of sand. What we've been seeing here in the Florida Swing, got 74 sand bunkers. And yes, water is going to be on this course. Not as bad as what we've seen at the Honda and the players, but 9 holes do come into play in the water. And these greens are going to be running fast. Right now, they're stating that they're running 12, which is, I consider, fast. But I'm guessing they're going to get firmer and faster as the weekend goes on. So up to Lightning or 13. Course defense, we're dealing with the same things we've been dealing with. Of course, you got the deadly combination of possible wind, and you got a lot of water. You got these really tough long par 3s. I'd say it's probably, there's a lot of course defense here, but that is definitely one of them. The 4 par 3s all, averaging around 200 to 200 plus yards. What's a little unique here compared to what we've been seeing is you're going to have quite a bit of elevation changes. So, shooting shots that are going to be below you, above you, also figuring out your yardage from those elevation changes. The fairways are kind of narrow. You also got the trees that come into play. And I already mentioned quite a bit of sand, some deep bunkers. And then maybe a little unique with this course is you got some double dog leg lefts or rights. So what does that mean is that you got to work the ball, be able to shape it. It means that, you're going to have to tee off to the right, and then you're going to have to work it back to the left, and then maybe your approach is coming back the other way. So there's some quirkiness in that. And then lastly, some pass notes. There was a restoration done here in 2015, and what did that do? It just made the course harder. It is actually the 6th most difficult course on the PGA Tour. And also, of course, you got just like, what do we see at the Honda where you got the bear trap? Now we've got the snake pit, the final 3 finishing holes, all named after, of course, snakes. You've got 16, which is a par 4, 475. You got 17 as a long par 3, and then you've got this long par 4 at the end at 445, hence Copperhead the name. Okay, so as always, I give you guys just a quick overhead view of what does this course look like, just in case you've never seen it. And if you look over to the left, it just gives you illustration, of course, of the water. You've got the tree line. So everything I was talking about, a lot of sand. You really can't tell the elevations, but there are elevations here. And then just a lot more of what we just discussed here, the tree line, the sand. So you have to be very accurate off the tee. You have to be really good on these long approaches, and we're going to talk more about that when we get into my stroke gain analysis ranking. All right, so real quick look at the scorecard. So the nice thing about this is almost like the Genesis at Riviera. The first hole, you get a par 5, easiest hole on the course, so a very gentle hello, welcome, and then it gets just tougher as you move along. And then you can kind of see, some longer par 4s, these long par 3s, even the par 5s, they are, they're going to make their birdies here, but they're no chumps. 600 yards, 575, 590. I think I missed one in here. 590, 575. Oh, 560 off the bat, the easiest one. And then those long par 3s. And then, of course, you end up on the snake pit at the end with the number 1 handicap hole being 16, the number 6 handicap hole, and then the 7th. And as very usual, you've got 6 birdie opportunities, 3 on each side, and then 6, holes where guys typically will make bogeys if they're going to make bogeys. So a very kind of, even mix. So really nothing from a strategy side, I would say, from a showdown or how you want to shoot your guys off. I mean, maybe depending on the weather, I think I would like my guys to go off the front if the wind allows. And then always I show you guys that I went through, and this is the official scorecard, and nothing has changed. It is spot on. And there's your yardage again at 73.40. Okay, so the skill set that you need to win the Valspar Championship, I always break down, and we're going to look at this from a stroke gain analysis and how I'll build my large custom model. But number 1, ball striking is the number 1 thing that we're going to weight the heaviest. You got to hit the ball pretty long, and you got to hit it really accurate. So we need off the tee. We need guys that can do that very well. Approach is always a key stat. Of course, the closer you hit it to the pin, the easier the putts are. Around the green shows up here. The greens are, like I said, they're medium, they're a little bit smaller. But because of these long shots in, you are going to be good with your short game. Putting definitely shows up here. But again, it's hard to predict, but we're going to do our best. And then scrambling because of the woods, the more narrow fairways, you got to be good at scrambling. I mentioned the procs to the pins. You got these long shots coming in, even on the par 3s, the long ones. But you got 175 to 200 comes in at 24%. And the next one that shows up is 200 plus at 23%. So you got to be good with the long irons or your hybrids. Also, you got to be able to gain strokes on the par 5s. You got to make your hay there. You got 3 of them coming in at 550 to 600. And then these long par 3s coming in at 200 to 225, all 4 of them. And then, of course, you got to make birdies. And that will also be showing up on my mini model when I make my picks. Okay, so one of my validation steps that I always look at is past winners. And so I'm looking at last year and then, of course, 2019 because we didn't have 2020. And, what it really kind of sets up is when you look at Keegan Bradley, who's done well here. I think Paul Casey fits a little bit in that. Tee to green, awesome. Just typically a bad putter. Bubba Watson, a great ball striker. Sunjay M, Kokrak. I mean, all these guys, Victor Hovland. If I looked at him, Louis at this time, in 2021 he led in putting, but he was not the best putter at this time. But you can say he gained 4. But Paul Casey, you can see barely gained anything putting here, but Burns did it with the putter. So long story short, what I'm going to be focusing on and how I'm going to be making my picks is I'm going to be looking for elite ball strikers, and that is tee to green. Who's the best off the tee and approach. And then, I'm going to worry a little about this, but not as heavily on the ball striking. So I've created my custom stat model for you guys, and you can see how it's weighted. Ball striking at 25%, off the tee at 15, approach at 15, and then everything else is at 5%. And then I put birdies and eagles at 0. I mean, it still shows up, but they didn't get weighted because I typically will do that in when I'm making my picks. And with all that said, the first guy comes up is my favorite, Colin Morikawa, who, of course, probably killed a lot of us, especially from a one and done. I mean, I just felt bad. There's a little also thought processing on it. I was a little worried to play Colin because of the 2-week break that he had. I always feel like guys that have not been in competition could also, find out when they get out there that they think they're good. They're all set, and then they're not as good as they thought. But with that said, I honestly believe if you wouldn't have given him the conditions, he would have been right there. Cameron Young, of course, he came out at the Genesis, the API. Guy hits the ball a mile off the tee, and is just a great ball striker. Joaquin Niemann won the Genesis. And again, this is looking over the last 12 rounds or 3 tournaments because it is recent form. Munoz, of course, who's, shot up the leaderboard on Saturday. And of course, was one of my picks, is always my first round leader. And I told you guys, he's an elite ball striker. If the putter goes, he goes. If he doesn't, weigh it. Matthew Fitzpatrick does the things we want, but, of course, he missed the cut. I think he also fell in that PM wave. Justin Thomas, one of the very few guys that made the cut in the PM wave, had that really, outstanding 3-under, no bogeys, playing in horrific conditions. Victor Hovland, again, I'm looking for good things even at the players for him. And honestly, if I had to pick a guy that I'd probably play in one and done or outright to win this thing, I like Victor Hovland a lot. Xander also fell in that PM wave and just, blew up. I think on 17, he shot like a triple bogey or something like that, and it was just game over. There was another guy I had on my brain, and I can't think of who it is now. Adam Scott. Just literally pretty much lost his chance when he had a quad in that weather, and it's just like game over. Like, you're not, recover from a snowman is very difficult. Now, funny enough, Paul Casey had, I think, a triple bogey or a double bogey on his first hole, but then just chipped away. So, I mean, it can happen. It's just, it is definitely a little off-putting or hard to get your mind in when you feel like, no matter what you do, with the weather and the way it is, it's just a little bit of luck if you get the gusts or not. Russell Knox, which was a pick for the players and made the cut, doing well. Keegan Bradley also doing pretty well at the players. Noren made the cut, was also one of my picks. So all 3 of those guys. Party Marty Laird showing up. Gary Woodland, of course, is back playing some decent golf. And then you have Adam Hadwin at the bottom. Okay, and then also I can always tell if I'm on the right track with my custom model when I see this one, the history at Copperhead. This is the last 3 tournaments these guys have played there. Some guys have not played that much golf there. So you got like Victor played here once, Wesley Bryant played, twice, Abraham Answer. This also could be due to missed cuts, like Doug M played here once and didn't make the cut. With that said, Louis Oosthuizen, who's done very well here, is number 1 in the rank against this and playing pretty good golf with the players. Of course, Paul Casey, probably the guy I use for one and done. I'm pretty much, I don't know, I feel like I'm almost out of it after the Morikawa pretty much sunk that ship. So, when you miss on 3 million completely, it's not looking good. But Kokrak, Hovland, Keegan Bradley, those are the kind of guys that I'm going to be looking at is the elite ball striker. I don't know if Aaron Wise is in this field. I think Griot is in this field. Like, just crazy elite, typically tee to green. You just hope that putter pops and away you go. So here's the guys that have the best history at Copperhead. And again, the best ball strikers, all I did was here, click on this, and pulled up over the last 3 rounds. And here's your guys. Again, Cameron Young, Morikawa, Munoz. A lot of the same names we've already been seeing. Keep showing up. Johnny Vegas is down there. The Taylor Pendrith, for a hot second, was up there leading the players, I think, day 2. Joseph Brandlett, that's interesting because I think of him a lead off the tee. I don't know about on approach. And then Brian Harmon also is kind of interesting. And then if you want to know the guys that have been best off the tee, of course, this is distance and hitting fairways. Cameron Young, like I said, bombs it out there on average, probably 320, 330. Munoz again. JT Poston, that's a little shocking. There's Griot that I mentioned. Trey Molinex, that's no shocker. This Colin Tarn, he actually showed up, I believe, I'm going to have to think about this now. I don't know if it was at the Players or the Honda, but he showed up a bit there. And then when he went over and played the Puerto Rico, he also showed up. So he could be somebody interested. Of course, I don't have pricing yet. That's not on a DraftKings either because, again, I'm recording this as they're trying to finish the players. This is something new that I wanted to pull up for you guys. Proximity to the pin, who leads in those 2 key areas. And I just wanted to be able to do that for you because I don't have a ton of content in this show that I like to have for you guys. But proximity from 200 out over the last 3 tournaments. Victor Hovland, number 1. Shane Lowry. Gary Woodland, Hadwin, Willett. That's interesting. Morikawa, Gim, Alex Smalley. I mean, you can see the names kind of going down the board. And then I also did it from 175 to 200, which is funny is Tom Hoagie, they showed this at the players, has actually been leading in this stat category, which is a very key one for the players. He's led it twice in his career over the last 5 seasons. All I kept thinking of is in the very early at the beginning of the season, he kept popping up as leader on approach, and it just kind of shocked me. I just never thought of Tom Hoagie as just an elite iron player, but more and more he's showing us that he is. But he's not in this field, funny enough. But from proximity 175 to 200, Victor Hovland again. So, of course, he's on my screen. I told you why I was very high on him. Now, if he makes the trek and plays in a tournament, we'll see. It wouldn't shock me, like I said, to see some of the big name guys pull out. Sahith Theegala, right, showed up at the Waste Management, which also I think is probably from a par 71 in distance and Bermuda. TPC Scottsdale is the closest comparable course from that perspective. Now, how it plays, I don't agree that it's the same from a water perspective in the trees, but from the distance, par, and Bermuda, it is one of the comp courses that I'll be using for you guys. You have Answer keeps popping up. Bubba, who had a good showing too. So he shot that 4 under round on Saturday. So it was him and JT that in those really crazy windy conditions actually came out pretty well and moved up the leaderboard. All right, so you can see the rest of the guys down here for proximity to pin from 175 to 200. So that gives you again some names that you will want to consider because those two approach shot areas is very key. All right, now on to the comparable courses. As I always tell you guys, this is one of my favorite things. This is pulling up these specific courses and how these guys have done here in the past. RBC Heritage, I don't think a lot of people think that's a good comparable course, but I know from the previous year I did a lot of kind of analysis on this, and it was amazing to see the guys who did well at RBC Heritage crossover who's done well at the Valspar. And also it is Bermuda. It's tight. I think it's a par 71, but not as, of course, long, a little shorter greens. A lot of the similar courses we've been using for this Florida swing. You got TPC Southwind. You've got, of course, Bay Hill. You've got the Honda PGA National. I mentioned already TPC Scottsdale, TPC Sawgrass, and then, of course, we'll look at Valspar Innisbrook. You put that in, and is Keegan Bradley. And this is looking over 6 tournaments. Taking a little larger sample size for you. Webb Simpson. Now, this is why I like to pull up to 12 rounds, because Webb, of course, missed the cut, and his game is just not where it's been. You got Koepka still a bit off. Terrell Hatton's been looking good, been playing well on the Florida courses. He'll be interesting play. I think these 3 guys, well, actually, these 4 guys I like a lot. HV3. Showing up and playing good golf. Be curious to see how that all shakes out. But yeah, there's your guys from a comparable course against my custom stat model. And with that said, that's it. I apologize, guys. I can't do, which I typically like to do with my favorite bets or the long shots, but I wanted to get this out to you. I know I wasn't going to have time later today. And, I'll do the bets, include that in my picks show tomorrow for you guys. Hopefully by that time, we should have the odds. We should have, of course, DraftKings pricing. But just to get the brain started, a quick preview show for you. Hey, hope you guys are having a great players and get to enjoy the rest of this round. And if Anibal Lahiri wins this thing, I'm going to be very depressed because, of course, I like those long shots and in a billion years would not have thought of that. But I highly doubt that's going to happen. I'm kind of looking for, if you want to know who I think will win it in the long run, I think Paul Casey, of course. I mean, that would be kind of, but I just don't know if the putter will hold up. But out of that, Burns, I think it's got a good shot. If somebody moves up the board, Victor Hovland still is, playing very deadly. And funny enough, Russ Henley, I think while I've been recording this, had another birdie. So we'll see how it all shakes out. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks again for spending time with me. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow when I put out my pick show.